I got to tell you, yeah, as you mentioned, the Denver Broncos are not a good football team. The New Orleans Saints are a pretty good team, better than people expected, but they lost their quarterback. Now they're talking about Trevor Siemian playing quarterback. That's not good. Then you have the Giants twice. You have the New York Jets. You have the Washington football team twice. Two win teams. The Jets are one of the worst teams in football. There's no reason the Eagles can't beat any of those teams, with the exception of Dallas. And Dallas may not have anything to play for in week 18.
Football 24/7 across the JAKIB Media YouTube channel with NFL insider John McMullen, all presented by Stateside Vodka. Go to statesidevodka.com. It's Football Thursday. Time for our Thursday updates. We begin to look ahead to the game on Sunday. And Johnny Mack, I'm going to say it right now as we come into Football 24/7. And, of course, we get ready for our Eagles pep rally tonight on Thursday night live from Screwballs. I'm going to say it tonight right now. The Eagles will win on Sunday.
Wow.
And Jalen Hurts will put the weight on his shoulder and will find a way to deliver and help this football team get their first home win of the 2021 season. How's that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a winnable game, as I've been saying for most of the week. I'll hold my prediction for tomorrow. At some point, the odds have to come through. You can't be 0-4, 0-5 at home, you would think. You're going to be a mediocre football team. And the Eagles have been able to win some games on the road. So you would think the worm is going to turn at Lincoln Financial Field at least a little bit. I know that, you think about the dominance at the Link in the Doug Peterson era. Obviously, that has not translated to date as we've moved into the transition. It's typically a really difficult place to play. And the opponents have been difficult in the first 8 games of the season. But San Francisco was first, and then Kansas City and Tampa Bay, obviously the two Super Bowl teams from February. That's a difficult schedule, but you also have to be fair and point out that, if anything, San Francisco's kind of underachieved to this point. So is Kansas City. Tampa Bay's been about as expected, still a really good football team. The Chargers are good. They're not great, but they're a solid team, and you would think you would have a chance to win this game. The Eagles need to get off the schneid, so to speak, at home. But I don't know. The one part I would disagree with what you said, Joe, is that Jalen Hurts is going to put things on his shoulders. I don't think that's going to happen.
Johnny Mack, you know that as we get closer to game week, I always want to feel good about the Eagles' chances. Over the last week, coming out of that Lions game, the one thing that has been on the surface that is a check under that column of this team being a beatable football team is the fact that they are horrible against the run. They're worse than Detroit, at least statistically they are. So that, I imagine, is one of those areas where perhaps if it's not because Jalen Hurts is connecting on a big shot down the field, He's going to use his legs. He's going to do something to create that one additional opportunity that will give them a chance to get the W coming off of that Detroit win. We're 8 in, John. We're 8 in. We're going on the other side of the coin. We're going into the second half. I'm hoping things are going to start to click.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that, if you spin it like that, I can believe it a little bit more. If you go back to the Carolina win, Jalen Hurts didn't play well, but he made some big plays down the stretch of the game to help to get the Eagles over the top. The defense had a great game. They had the block punt, and he contributed with a couple big plays in a couple big spots. If that's how you're going to frame it, yeah, I can buy that. I can buy that happening. What I haven't seen, and I don't think we're going to see, unfortunately, is consistent, really good quarterback play for 60 minutes. I just don't think the Eagles have that capability at this point where we are in the development. So, yeah, you're going to have to sort of win these games ugly and make a play maybe with his legs late in the game, as you said, keep things close. And I do think it'll be a one-score game. So that's certainly a potential possibility.
I know we've talked, Johnny Mack, at length, and I'm sure you have with Jody Mack on Birds 365. I'm sure you did this morning with Jeff Kerr on Birds 365. You do it every day. You evaluate the head coach. You evaluate Nick Sirianni. And I don't want to ask this question in the context of, hey, Nick wants to win a game. I don't want to ask this question in that. How are you evaluating Nick in his progression after the first 8 games? Because he's had a lot of ping pongs up and down on the Richter scale as well.
Yeah, I think he's shown good leadership. I think the Flower stuff was a perfect example of that. I think it was spun in a negative way outside the building. I think inside the building, I think it was taken much differently. I think you saw the players, if anything, want to rally behind their head coach. So I think the intangible stuff has been good. I think you question the game planning at certain points. You question the play calling. You question the scheme and what they're trying to accomplish. And that's what we've been talking about for a number of weeks now. Is it the head coach trying to protect the young quarterback, or is it just poor game planning? I think personally, it's the head coach trying to protect the quarterback. Other people think differently. We're not really going to know that until we see a different quarterback, to be honest. So, I don't know if we want to see Gardner Minshew. I think it would be, um, I think it would be eye opening. I think it would answer a lot of questions if we did see him, as far as what the head coach thinks of Jalen Hurts and where we are in that sort of dichotomy of coach versus quarterback. Where's the issue? Which side of the fence do you come down on? Uh, a lot of people come down on and saying the coach is doing a disservice to the quarterback. A lot of people say the coach is hamstrung by the quarterback. I don't have the answer to that. I believe the coach is being hamstrung by the quarterback, but it's not definitive by any stretch of the imagination.
Johnny Mack, when you look at the play sheet, when you look at post game after the game's been played, and you analyze and evaluate and start to look at the calls that the head coach is making, a full body of work, what are you seeing? Are you seeing limited calls? Are you seeing a much smaller play calling look than maybe what you're accustomed to from a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very simplified offense. So, part of that is trying to take advantage, certainly, of what the quarterback does well. Um, and, trying to do what he did at Oklahoma, for instance, and bring that to the professional level. I mean, Nick has admitted he doesn't have a lot of experience with read option stuff in his career. He's been more in a pro style offense with Frank Reich and Indianapolis and dealing with Andrew Luck and Philip Rivers. In between, they had Jacoby Brissett. So that's where they got a little bit started in that direction. He's talked about Tom Manning in Indianapolis helping him in that circumstance. He's talked about Brian Johnson here in Philadelphia helping him bring that college sort of flavor to a pro offense. That's what the Eagles are trying to do a lot of the time. I don't think it's what Nick Sirianni wants to do. I think he wants to run a pro style offense. He would rather have Philip Rivers at quarterback. He would rather have Andrew Luck at quarterback and be able to do a lot of different things when it comes to processing, when it comes to progressions, when it comes to utilizing all your areas of the field, all the receivers at your disposal. They can't do that right now.
Football 24/7 with NFL insider John McMullen. Team back at work at practice today down in South Philadelphia. Injury updates, Johnny Mack. Anything to report out of South Philadelphia, or is it the same old long list of players who didn't practice for various reasons? Is there anyone on that list who may not play on Sunday? Might be a better way to ask the question.
Yeah, I think, well, you really got some good news in the instance that only one player didn't practice today, and that was JJ Arcega-Whiteside. So it's looking like he's not going to play Sunday, but that's a guy who's not a big part of the offense to begin with. Everybody else practice in some form. Fletcher Cox was limited. Jack Driscoll was limited. Javon Hargrave was limited. Zach McPherson. And the most notable, because he didn't practice yesterday, was Jalen Reagor. So he was upgraded. He did some things in practice in a limited fashion. So that was the other player I mentioned yesterday. The two receivers were trending in a negative direction. Reagor at least getting back to a limited portion of practice. So it looks like he'll have at least a chance to play on Sunday, and we'll have to see how things go Friday. But, when he got carted off, I think a lot of people thought he was going to be out for at least a little while. And it's going a little bit positive. Now, I mean, Jalen hasn't performed that well either. So he did get a little bit involved in Detroit with the manufactured touches early, but wide receiver, sort of a extension of what we just talked about with the coach. What's going on with the wide receiver position? What's going on with Devontae Smith? What's going on with Reagor, Quez Watkins, and the lack of production? Is it the receivers? Is it the quarterback? Is it both? We're going to be having these discussions until you get really, really competent and solid quarterback play.
John, I don't know if you had your press conference phone or conversation with Brandon Staley. Does that occur, or is that a Friday thing, or when does that happen?
It's not happening. This year is the first year where it has become voluntary for the opposing coach. He can decline to talk to the opposition media. It's only happened twice this year. Arthur Smith didn't talk to us in the opener, and Brandon Staley chose not to talk to us this week. Every other coach has talked to us, and who knows why. But Brandon Staley declined an opportunity to talk to the Philadelphia media.
Do you know, by the way, is Nick Sirianni speaking to the media from outside the city?
Yeah, certainly. He has at times. I can't say if he has 100% of the time, but for instance, I asked Dave Burkett last week in Detroit if Nick spoke to them, and he did. So he is at least doing it at times. And he hasn't said no to everyone, but I can't say 100% because I don't know. Sometimes it might be just you don't have time during the week. Um, the Thursday night, I'd be willing to bet Nick Sirianni probably didn't talk to um, uh, the Tampa reporters because there's so little time during that week. But he's at least doing it on occasion. I can say that.
I don't want to mislead anybody, John, but I thought that I saw a Twitter post from the Philly Godfather yesterday referencing QB Justin Herbert with some sort of a sore wrist or at practice yesterday. Do you know anything about that? Is that something that is out there? What do you know,
Yeah.
if anything?
Yeah. He's got a bit of a hand injury, and he has been listed. But he's going to play. It's one of those things where obviously um, you're where you are week 9 in the NFL season. You're going to have a lot of players that are banged up. But yeah, Justin was on the injury report, and it is his throwing hand. He was limited Wednesday. The Chargers haven't put out their injury report yet, obviously, as a West Coast team. But um, yeah, he's dealing with a bit of a hand injury. They have a lot of players a little bit banged up. Austin Eckler, their running back, is dealing with a hip injury, but he was able to practice fully. Alohi Gilman, who's an underrated safety, has an ankle injury. He did not practice on Wednesday. Asante Samuel Jr., who a lot of people liked because of his father and what he did here. Um, and we're hoping the Eagles would draft him is in the concussion protocol. Drew Tranquil, who's a really fast playmaking linebacker, was is practicing, but he's kind of banged up with a chest injury. So they have a lot of injury issues themselves, and Justin Herbert is one of them, but he is expected to play.
Johnny Mac, are they coming into the game on Sunday off of back-to-back losses?
Yeah, they have kind of hit the skids a little bit. It was the Baltimore game, which was, the Chargers were kind of flying high, and everybody was saying, "All right, this might be a really really good football team." And then they went into Baltimore, and the Ravens are obviously a pretty significant contender on the AFC side, and they waxed them pretty good. I think the score was 34-6 or something of that nature. Uh, that was the one game where they were kind of blown out, and that was in Baltimore. And then last week they had New England and they lost a very, very close game at home, 27-24. So they had started 4-1, and they were coming off a game against Cleveland where they scored 47 points, and people were starting to say, wow, this team could turn into something. Obviously, you've probably seen how people have taken to Brandon Staley in his press conferences. Um, but they've kind of hit the skids a little bit against, and Baltimore was the team that sort of stopped it. And that, interestingly enough, that was going into their bye week, so they haven't won for a long time. Uh, they lost at Baltimore, they had a bye, and they lost against New England, and now they'll be coming cross country to face the Eagles. Now, the one positive thing when you talk about a West Coast team, the Eagles probably would have liked this to be a 1 o'clock game, but it's a 4 o'clock game, and that helps the Chargers a little bit.
I know a lot of the points, a lot of the yards from an Eagles perspective have been chalked up to, I don't want to call it garbage time, but have been chalked up to, fourth quarter scores and the opposing team is so far ahead that the game's, already in hand. Uh, what do the numbers tell you, John? Despite that context, the Eagles are scoring what per game offensively after 8 games on the year?
Well, I don't have it in front of me, but if you look at what the Eagles have done to this point, yeah, there's a lot of games where, and we talked about this. They got behind, and really, Las Vegas. People talk about the Detroit game. So the Las Vegas game, they lose that game 33-22. But remember, they got the early lead. They took the 7-0 lead, and then the Raiders scored 30 consecutive points. And from that standpoint, it was game over. It was over. I mean, and the Raiders started to play differently. And there was no sense of urgency, and all of a sudden the final score doesn't look as bad. Same thing happened with Tampa Bay. Final score, you say 28-22. That doesn't look that bad. I think anybody who saw that game knows it wasn't that close. Same thing with the Chiefs, 42-30. Eagles were never really in it. Same thing in Dallas. Now, Dallas was a blowout anyway, 41-21, but it wasn't that close. So you see, if you want to look at the first 8 games, you have the 2 bookends which were the 2 good performances. Atlanta opening day, 32-6. Detroit, 44-6. You can see both the offense doing some things and the defense playing really, really well. And in between those 2 bookends, not a lot of good football. You had 6 games, 5 losses. In the one game they won, which was Carolina, they probably got outplayed. And they made a couple big plays on defense. They got the block punt, as I mentioned, and they were able to win the football game. So in between the 2 bookends, it hasn't been great.
Well, as Nick Sirianni and all coaches profess, let's be 1-0 this week, right? Let's forget about everything else. Let's turn the page. I'm assuming as you turn the page, you learn whatever you can absorb from your previous game or your previous wins or losses. You turn the page and you go play another football game. And that's where I am right now, Johnny Mac. I don't care what you say on Football 24/7. I am leading the charge tonight at
Playoffs.
Screwballs into the playoffs because I really do believe, Johnny Mac, that if the Eagles can get a win today, or not today, if the Eagles can get a win on Sunday, go out to Denver. They're on tank mode already in Denver, and get us out on the other side of Thanksgiving, where we have a legitimate chance to win and get into the playoffs. I think that's a good thing. So that's my story. That's what I'm sticking to.
There's no reason you shouldn't. I mean, there's 7 playoff teams now. It's pretty evident whomever that 7th playoff team is going to be. Right now, it's Carolina, who is 4-4, 1 game ahead of the Eagles. But remember, they lost to the Eagles, so they lose a tiebreaker in that situation. So they're not far out of it. Obviously, the first half of this schedule was the far more difficult part of this schedule. And you can make a strong argument that the Los Angeles Chargers, this Sunday, November 7th, 4:05, is the best team the Eagles have left on their schedule. Now, the only one that is obviously better is Dallas. Dallas is a really good football team. I know Eagles fans don't want to hear that, but they are a really good football team. But they play the Eagles week 18, January 9th, the last game of the regular season. By that point, the Cowboys are going to have the NFC East wrapped up, to say the least. And if they're not in the mix for that number 1 seed, that could be a situation where you see them sitting all their starters, and that becomes an easy game for the Eagles. So if that plays out, I got to tell you, yeah, as you mentioned, the Denver Broncos are not a good football team. The New Orleans Saints are a pretty good team, better than people expected, but they lost their quarterback. Now they're talking about Trevor Siemian playing quarterback. That's not good. Then you have the Giants twice. You have the New York Jets. You have the Washington football team twice. 2-win teams. The Jets are one of the worst teams in football. There's no reason the Eagles can't beat any of those teams with the exception of Dallas. And Dallas may not have anything to play for in week 18.
Oh, my, what a run it's going to be, Johnny Mac. Great stuff here on Football 24/7. I'm going to let you go. That fires me up for our pep rally tonight at Screwballs. It's our countdown to kickoff show every Thursday night. Of course, we're live here across the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. We'll have a big house tonight. Big house. Big crowd expected as we look ahead to the 4:05 kickoff on Sunday. Johnny Mac, great stuff, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Krause. Appreciate it.
We'll see everybody next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.